topic may not be familiar to some. To give you an idea about the business model, I will introduce the panelists one by one before they come up, and they will introduce with a short presentation before the panel begins. So without further ado, can we usher the panelists up? We have Mr. Daryl Tan, Head of Meta, Mighty Jacks. Yes, let's give him a round of applause. So Daryl oversees the development and manage the segment of Meta division within Mighty Jacks Group, including the enhancement of products roadmap and spearheading market opportunities with insight and competitive intelligence. Daryl started his career as an investment in data analysis before becoming a venture investor in San Francisco, where he drove and supported M&A research and target analysis of multiple advertisement technology over the years. He is also the Vice President of Operations and Strategy at a startup where he helped businesses to digitalize their operations before returning back to Singapore to head up Mighty Jacks. Give him a round of applause. Wow, that's amazing. We also have George Wong, Head of Singapore from The Sandbox. Yes, George Wong is the Head of Singapore of The Sandbox, a leading decentralized virtual world and subsidiary of Animoca Brands. Concurrently, he's the Honorary Secretary and Male Ally for Women in Blockchain Asia and the founder of Reactive Labs, a blockchain advisory as well. Prior to this, he has ventured more than 20 over startups from retail to publishing, most notably in artistic investment and blockchain space. He's managed a variety of investment-related firms, supported the growth of a regional investment community, and successfully completed an ICO in 2018. And we also have Yun Bi, which is the content director of Fathom Studio. Yes, Yun Bi has been active since 2016 as a producer, singer, songwriter, and entertainer. Having graduated from NYU, Yun Bi has worked as an account manager in Wall Street prior to his career in entertainment. He's also worked in fashion, we could tell, as a creative director and has curated content for production companies while building his career as an artist. So Renee Tan, let's invite her on stage. She's familiar to all of us here. She will be moderating the interesting topic today in Beyond Web3 in Retail and Entertainment panel. But before we start, let me please give a proper bio introduction to Renee. Yeah? Renee is the founder and managing director of Hashtags, which helps businesses to scale up and internationalize through brand transformation and an ecosystem development with more than 13 years of corporate experience under her belt. She is also the founder of HER Entrepreneur, which is an all-inclusive and diverse regional community that is focused on helping women entrepreneurs in the world. She's a partner for Artificial Intelligence International Institute, AIII, a think tank that advocates sustainable AI for humanity. Renee herself is also the recipient for Brands for Good Award in 2019 and was featured in the Business Times. Her business and herself was featured in several media platforms such as 93.8 FM, CNA, The Economist, The Business Times. With that, let's give a big round of applause for our prestigious guest on stage.
All right, thank you all for coming today. And this is a really interesting topic, as we all know that Web3 ushers in a new era of internet evolution. It's beyond metaverse, NFT, and cryptocurrencies. And it empowers us with groundbreaking technologies like blockchain, redefining ownership, incentives, and collaboration as well. But how can we apply the Web3 concept to our businesses? Let's hear from each and every one of our panelists on their business introduction, their business model, and how they can implement Web3 in their business. Let's begin first with Daryl Tan from Mighty Jacks, followed by George Wong from The Sandbox, and Yun Bi from Fathom Studio, before we kickstart our panel. Please begin. Daryl, let's kickstart with the introduction.
All right, thanks, Renee. All right, morning, everybody. Very happy to be joining you guys as well as the fellow panelists. So I'm going to just do a very quick introduction of Mighty Jacks Group. We kind of rebranded. We're called Mightyverse right now. And I think in a nutshell, we're basically a future cultures company powering future experiences. So these are actually some of the products that we've made. We are a Singaporean company. We are about 10 years old. Our first product rolled off in 2012. And over the past 10 years, we've delved a lot in the physical collectible side of things, right? Roughly about 3.5 years ago, we started incorporating blockchain into our physical products. What does this actually mean? So if you think about collectibles, if any of you are collectors here, what's very important for you is actually the authenticity of your collectibles, right? So what we've done is actually we've done authentication on blockchain since 2020. And every product that we have basically has a NFC chip that is embedded within the product. You scan it, you basically use the app, it actually authenticates it, and you can actually see the provenance on the blockchain as well. So that's what we've been doing for the past 3 years. And fandom is not just about physical products, right? So we've actually expanded and we're actually moving on to beyond fandoms, beyond just the physical products, and we're looking at what do fans actually want, right? And one of the things that we landed on is actually on the experiences side of things. So again, not something that's too much of a stranger to us. We've done experiences all around the world, usually targeted at small events, events relating to culture, right? And one example of this is we dissected a car. This is actually at the Shanghai Auto Show, and this was actually with XPeng, one of the China EV companies. One of the things that you can see is that a big part of Mighty Jacks actually is around the collaboration with artists as well. So a lot of these dissected, whether we dissect the car, dissect the balloon dog and stuff like that, this actually is with a US artist called Jason Freeney. So in essence, what we're doing, in the Web3 space is really around combining art and tech and actually bringing fans through immersive phygital, whether it's a collectible, and then we're looking at experiences as well. So one of the things that actually was just announced this morning is that we are collaborating with Netflix to bring Stranger Things to Singapore. And in this experience, this would be an experience where you actually go through iconic locations within Stranger Things, and obviously there will be like retail and F&B items as well. So I actually didn't prepare like another slide after this because I didn't know whether I get a go ahead. But this morning at 10 a.m. it's actually official already, right? So really exciting stuff. And in this case, how we're actually bringing the blockchain in is really around the area of NFT ticketing, right? And we're looking at it from a kind of a different way. We're actually bringing in, Stranger Things iconic icons, right? So when you think of, I'm not sure whether you guys are Stranger Things fan. I'm a huge fan, right? So when you think about different icons like the grandfather clock from season 4, or the Eggo waffles, which Eleven loves to eat, these are all icons that you can actually collect as part of the experience, and you can actually do some personalization on your NFT that we're actually issuing as an NFT ticket. So really exciting stuff. Hopefully, if you guys have any questions, I can address it during the panel later. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your introduction. And let's have George next.
Thank you. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So I will just be showing 2 videos, and I'm going to share a bit about the videos itself so that you have an understanding a bit about what the sandbox is. Now, quick introduction, of course, you can roll the video anytime. The sandbox is one of the leading decentralized metaverses in the world. So a metaverse for us is a space where you can play, people can create, people can monetize their assets, and we've been building since 2018. Our company's been around since 2014. We have 10 offices, 450 plus employees worldwide, and we're invested by companies like SoftBank. And as you can see, we work with a lot of different IPs. We work with more than 400 IPs around the world as well, and most of them are not Web3 companies or blockchain companies, but they are brands that you are familiar with in every day. Because for us, introducing brands that people are familiar with in the metaverse is what drives traffic. Because the metaverse space, to many people, is still early days, and it's a way for us to introduce culture, introduce familiarity, introduce content, and it's a way for businesses to monetize their IPs in different ways, to engage and build new digital communities, and to have a higher level of engagement with their fans or their customers. And this is a very different aspect to marketing, because in many cases, digital marketing is a very push strategy. strategy. They're pushing content out. But the metaverse is a form of a platform that is two-way, right? And you can go to, and you can see that when people interact in the space, they're not just about just playing a game, but it's really about connecting with other people. Now, if you notice that our graphics is in voxel design, and it's very blocky, it's very square. Reason for that is because we also aim to be like the YouTube of metaverses. We want to make things easy to build. So a person without design knowledge can use the tools that you see here to build the assets themselves. These are the tools that we've created. We've invested a lot of money into Game Maker, VoxEdit. There is no technical requirement to learn this. There's no coding. It's a no-code platform. Our youngest creators are like age 14 or 15 who are already building not just avatars, collectibles, experiences, but also creating NFTs immediately out of this using this platform. So they don't need to learn any kind of coding, and it's something that's great if you're into the maker movement, if you're into STEM education. This is where kids are learning not just about building the assets, but also about, in the long term, how to participate in the gig economy. Especially if they have artistic talents, side gigs are a very common thing as well. So the metaverse is more than just a game. The metaverse is a space that allows people to interact, to grow, to learn, and also to develop a new job experience as well for them, right? So the dynamics of how jobs in the metaverse would actually change the way gig economy works as well. So because the way smart contracts work, and being able to monetize their assets immediately. So this is just a quick snapshot. If you have any questions or if I've lost you halfway through, please do ask us during the Q&A. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. And next we have Yunbi from Fandom to introduce what he does at Fandom.
Hello, so this is Yoon-B. So basically what Fandom Studio, what we focus on is curating NFTs for mega IPs. And we are launching a TikTok Moments campaign in which creators will be able to mint their videos and monetize them. And we also offer fiat as the transaction system. So basically, me as a creator, I've been in the entertainment industry for around 8 years. And I've actually experienced a lot of difficulties as a creator trying to monetize my content, whether it be through YouTube, whether it be through going out on shows, whether it be through movies or, small dramas. There was always that pressure of not having a monthly income. And there was also pressure of really delving into the Web3 world as a creator because the hurdles of actually integrating NFTs, Web3, and decentralized finance, as a creator, it is very difficult to understand. And not only do YouTube and all of these distribution platforms, they take away a lot of commission. They take away a lot of money. And unless you have a very big following on Instagram or YouTube or on any other platform as a creator, it is very hard to actually earn profit. Because literally, unless you have, for example, like 200K plus followers on YouTube, unless your content is ad friendly, there are very difficult barriers and standards that these platforms impose upon creators. So, challenges of Web3 integration as a creator, these are a lot of the things that I have personally experienced. And the first one is obviously lower user experience and high entry barriers, meaning the UX of integrating NFTs, wallet integration, and Web3, it sounds good on the surface, but as a creator, we want to have tools that we can really dispose a seamless experience is what we want when we create things. But to be very honest with you, when I first got into NFTs, which was 3 years ago, I started off with auctioning one of my songs as an NFT. But it was very vague at that time what NFT was or what it actually means and how this will actually make me money. And one of the problems that I faced to this day that I remember was gas fees. So my music was auctioned at 2 ETH back then, but the gas fees were so high that the highest bidder actually ended up not purchasing it. So that was my very first encounter with a Web3 type problem in application of the real world. Another thing is, insofar as Korea is concerned, the perception of NFT has its ups and downs. The perception of cryptocurrency, especially, we've had a lot of scam issues like the Luna incident, and we've had a lot of people trying to harness NFTs and Web3 as a means of profit and a means of quick money, a quick way to scam people, basically. So all of these things combined, more and more mega IPs are very afraid or very tenacious of actually delving into the Web3 world, and it's very difficult to actually work with mega IPs and curate their original NFTs. So at Fandom Studio, we actually have a solution for all of these problems. So first one is our curated content. Because we are a company, a production company based on original productions, we have access to a lot of mega IPs in the Korean entertainment industry. And one of our very successful first campaigns was with G-Dragon and his brand Peace Minus One. So we curate NFTs for mega IPs depending on their niche, their core values, and what the fans really expect from these IPs. And one of them was Archive of Peace Minus One. For those of you who don't know, G-Dragon is definitely a global IP, and hence the term mega IP. And what we have curated for him was basically a real estate type NFT collection where you could own a part of Peace Minus One. So G-Dragon, he has 2 paintings that he drew himself, that he painted himself, that represents the core value of Peace Minus One. We 3D scanned it and made 22,400 per painting, and we have created each piece into a puzzle that the fans could purchase, and per piece and per each section of the painting, G-Dragon has an intimate story behind it that he could share with the owners. Not only that, we have also had real-world utility applications where we offered the giveaway of Kwando, which was G-Dragon and Peace Minus One's most recent launch of the shoes. They literally sell out within 10 seconds or 5 seconds, but we were able to have a giveaway event for the NFT holders. And the second thing that we focus on right now is our TikTok Moments campaign. Mega IPs, sure, they're a great statement. However, for revenue, we really want to focus on the real creators. By real creators, I mean the average person on TikTok, the average video creator on YouTube, and whatnot. So TikTok, we have officially partnered with TikTok, and we are able to provide an extension service utilizing Web3 and blockchain technology, where creators will be able to mint their videos for sale, for monetizing purposes. And also, we have gotten rid of the problematic traditional UX hurdles by offering fiat transaction. So purchasers, they don't really have to know that it's an NFT. They don't really have to know that it's a monetized video via Web3. It is just a monetized video, like a premium content type thing. So we are in the process of onboarding a lot of IPs for our TikTok Moments campaign currently. And this is a quick 30-second introduction video for our company.
The connections we have are valuable. Great things happen when we engage directly. From one creator to a user. From an artist to a listener. We are Fandom.
Yeah, and just TMI, as a TMI, that was my voice and me in the video. Fandom saved a lot of money. But
I thought you were about to sing.
Oh, no. Later today. But basically, so Fandom, we create connections, valuable and long-lasting connections between creators and their fans. And thank you very much. Please do follow our, Twitter and Instagram. Yeah, thank you.
Right, fantastic. Thank you so much, Inbi. So now with this introduction, we're going to kickstart with the panel discussion. And to the audience, if you have questions, we'll have some time for you later on. Okay, we have industry leaders in a few spaces as we listen to them. We've got people in the collectible space, in gaming industry, in the entertainment industry. I'm sure you work with the new generation consumers a lot. So now share with us, what are some of the strategies in which we can narrow the gap in the phygital space with Web3 to engage with the new generation consumers? Who'd like to start first? Oh, okay, go ahead. Sure, go ahead.
I'll start first. So I think at the end of the day, I mean, some of the panelists have touched on kind of the mainstream adoption, right? So what are some of the hurdles? If you ask someone to say, hey, you got to get money, you got to change it to cryptocurrency, you then got to pay gas fees, you've lost like 99% of your audience, right? So in terms of like the mainstream adoptions, even on the whether it's phygital or whether it's digital, actually the main thing in my mind, a lot of it is removing hurdles, right? So if you are able to have them consume whatever content that they want and in a way that they are comfortable with, then I think that's the way to unlock it. Yeah.
Fantastic. And how about yourself, George?
So I think we work with many retail brands that are looking at phygital, right? Because there needs to be metaverse is a good space where you can represent your digital identities in a 3D environment, right? So a lot of the things we're doing with different partners is quite experimental. There's some tech that needs to be built. A lot of it is like in use in some of their tech as well, like with NFC chips and all that. So you have like a one-to-one replica in the metaverse space. So you not only own the physical item, but you also have a digital replica. So you could buy a jacket, you like the jacket, you want your digital avatar to have the jacket. So there's a bit of experimentation to bridge the gap, to introduce people to this new space and link it to real-world items. Have we discovered the secret sauce yet? I think everyone is still kind of experimenting. And that's why you're going to see a lot of companies try very different things. Don't be surprised. And it may not necessarily work, but we're the sandbox. We're here to experiment. That's where we're working on right now.
Fantastic. And Yunbi, your point of view?
Yeah, I definitely think Gen Z especially is a different culture. They have different standards and different methods of engaging with content. And what I believe is for sure a sure factor in bridging the gap is user experience. Like I've always said, providing, ironically, a Web 2-like experience with Web 3 technology. So we want to make these Gen Z users, they don't really have to know that it's the wallet integration. They don't have to know the back end of it. And currently a rising trend is this topic called account abstraction, as you guys already know, where the back end is taken care of. So I believe that having a seamless user experience, and on top of that, being in tune with the current trends and methods of presenting that content, for example, in TikTok Reels, YouTube Shorts, and being very in tune with the trend, the current presentation methods will be a very good way to harness and to really engage directly with the Gen Zs. Yeah.
Right, fantastic. And you, all three of you worked with various brands, okay, and artists. And share with us, how do you think Web3 can transform the retail and entertainment industry?
I would say that we usually look at Web3 as a complement. A lot of people think that, I'll use retail shopping and e-commerce, for example. When e-commerce was introduced, everyone said that retail would die. Retail didn't die, it evolved, right? They focused more on service, they more focused on showcase, And I think the same with metaverses. Metaverses will not replace retail businesses, but they act as a very good complement. So in a way, one of the things that I feel that metaverses will be like and Web3 will be like, it's another channel. And it's a question of whether or not companies are ready to start embracing and experimenting with the channels now. Similarly with e-commerce, people who worked on it early dominate the market now, but they spent years of experimentation and trying out the new technology and integrating, because integration takes a lot of time. Internal competencies take a lot of time. You probably have an e-commerce manager today, right? And we believe that you may have a metaverse manager later on, right? So I think that's where we are coming from the sandbox context.
Daryl, any point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a process, right? And it's a journey. We actually work on our figurine side, on the phygital, on the physical, kind of figurines, collectibles. We work with, all the usual suspects, right? Universal, Hasbro, DC, Toei Animation. So there's like Sanrio, for Hello Kitty. So there are all these big IPs that we work with, right? And there are, to be honest, there's varying degrees of acceptance. And in some cases, they're guarded because they have their own initiatives that they want to launch as well. So I think as kind of players, as collaborators with them, we're always looking for ways that we can achieve kind of win-wins, right? The interesting part about Mighty Jacks actually is that a lot of our IPs, for a lot of the physical collectibles that we do in the first place, is not usually just like Hello Kitty, right? Or Line and Friends. Like there's usually an artist twist to it. So for us, we understand that, for them, they might want to go to the sandbox by themselves. They might actually buy land and they might have their own initiatives. But how do we actually complement those initiatives as well? That's super important for us to actually be able to uncover and be able to kind of, in a sense, be able to be their wing person, right? To flank their core initiatives as well.
And as you mentioned, there's various level of acceptance. Is there a lot of education required?
Short answer is yes.
Oh, okay.
I think even on the paneling, even as a panelist, as I'm listening to Yunbi and listening to kind of George speak, I'm learning stuff as well. And I think at the end of the day, like there's this education curve that, in a sense, in some cases there's a lot more education needed. In some cases, they already know. It's actually trying to understand how can we work together rather than, this is Web3 and we got to own the whole space. I think it's kind of like the internet. You can't actually own the whole internet. You got to find out, as George says, like how do you actually play the channels? So even within the channels, like how does MJ become a different channel to their core metaverse strategy or their core digital strategy?
Right, it's ever evolving, and we are always learning. And Yunbi, yourself.
Yeah, well, two things for me. The first one is, again, if you're dealing with IPs and their fan base, there are many different traditional ways. For example, you could have a fan meeting. They could sell their albums. They could, you could watch their videos on YouTube and whatnot. But what we really want to focus on is trying to harness Web3 to facilitate the engagement between the content creators and the audience and how to monetize it. And it could be in forms of real-world utilities where you create a membership, for example, where this tier could give this, and this for this artist or this particular product. And another thing that I really want to touch on is in Korea, we do have basically a membership service for department stores, even for airlines. You have the Million Mile Club. So there are all various factions, various ways of premium membership, right? You pay this amount of money to be a premium member of something. Traditional memberships, I think, Web3 can really change the paradigm because we really don't have to be secluded to one particular membership. So, for example, you have one SkyPass membership, you have one department membership, you have one VIP access to this club membership. I think with Web3, you could really unify all of those memberships into perhaps like an all-in-one type of utility membership. So I think with Web3 and entertainment, content, and all these premium services, it really will help and facilitate engagement. Yeah.
Now it's down to the practicality of things. Share with us, how can SMEs with a traditional business model transform and adopt Web3? And if you have any successful case studies, please share with us. Would like to start first. Tricky?
Fandom is a medium-sized company, and our very first curated content was G-Dragon. The process for us to obtain that mega IP, it took a very long time. We've had our trials and tribulations, but in doing so, we figured out that it's not really about the process, it's about getting it done, getting it in our history book, basically. The fact that we did it with G-Dragon and the fact that we sold out our collection within a day in a tri-way collaboration with OpenSea and Binance, that's a statement. So what I feel like is for fandom, I believe the Peace-1 drop was a huge success because through Peace-1, other IPs and other mega IPs, they're kind of more susceptible. So they're like, oh, so G-Dragon did it with you guys. I think I can do it with you guys too. The entry barrier, the process of obtaining the IP was difficult. However, once having done so, it's so much easier to obtain and really approach these mega IPs. And another project that we're working on right now, for example, is with Michael Jackson. I can't disclose further details about this project. I could get fired, but with the GD case, with the successful case of GD, we were able to obtain a project with Michael Jackson and his basically the owners of his IP. So I guess for entertainment and an IP-based company, which is Fandom, and a medium-sized company at the same time, I guess it is a success case. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay, I think two things need to happen in order for SMEs, and a lot of them are happening right now. Firstly is tech needs to improve so that it's intuitive. Like we focus on no code. We need to make it easier for creators to create. And that's something that we spend a lot of time on. We need to make it easy for people. That's one. The second is to understand that Web3 is not expensive. Right? A lot of people think that Web3 is expensive. It's actually one of the cheapest technologies to implement, but you need effort. You need to learn, you need to understand Web3. And when you build a product in Web3, you also need to deal with the problems that come with Web3, like community management. The biggest problem dealing with SMEs is when we tell them, yeah, you can do an NFT, it's not expensive, you can design something, you can build a membership card with NFTs, whatever you want to do to get into the Web3 space. And that is actually the easy part. The hard part is dealing with this 10, 20, 30,000 highly engaged fans who have bought your NFT and wants to talk to you every single day. And they want updates and excitement every single day. So the speed of the internet now catches up with you in real time. And you have to cope with that. And when people see that, they decide, oh, this is not for me. But if your business runs in the digital space 24/7, you have to be prepared to deal with high customer engagement 24/7. So that's that willingness that a lot of brands are not willing to, but it's not a cost problem. It's a desire. Right? So that to me is and we come out to educate, explain to people, tell you the problem but it's worthwhile because the outcome for your business is good, but you must be willing to take that step. So that's the biggest challenge right now.
Wow, that's high-speed customer service for you, right? And yeah, Daryl.
Yeah, actually, maybe just to add on a little bit more to like what George is saying, like we collaborate a lot with NFT projects, right? And actually, in a sense, some of these projects are just like SMEs, right? Like when we're looking at guys like Pudgy Penguins, like one of the things that they've done really well is they actually haven't just kind of looked at the traditional Web3 mediums of communications, right? They didn't just say, oh, we're just going to use Twitter. For them, if you go Pudgy Penguins and you look at the Instagram account, it has like over 500,000 engaged users, and that is their mouthpiece, right? That George is talking about. How they use that to kind of leverage, right? Like if you think about it, yes, they have Pudgy Penguins, yes, they have Little Penguins, but it's only 20,000 users, right? But from these 20,000, they actually have a community of over 500,000, and it's still growing. And part of it is actually a lot of the messages that they are showing. Some of them is mental wellness. Some of them is actually around like, just positive messages they're spreading, right? And that's kind of the core ethos on a lot of these projects that I see are successful. So when you're thinking about like leveraging Web3, actually a very important part, which I think Yoon B touched on as well, is like what actually is the core message that you want to kind of talk about, right? What does your brand represent? Because if you don't have that, actually, like things run out quite quickly, right, in terms of what you want to say. But if you're reinforcing this similar message and you're using Web3 as a way to amplify it, then I think that's the correct way to kind of use Web3.
So there's a lot of engagement and community building that I hear here. And so how do you build trust and governance with the community despite the crypto winter?
I think one of the things that, we have done very well in the winter, right? So the sandbox was profitable during the winter. And I think the reason was because we were very honest about the market. One of the things that in the crypto winter is that it is a lot cheaper to build in Web3, right? Because it's a winter. At the same time, we also understand and we always inform all these 400 plus brands, they don't come in thinking that I'm going to make $1 million in Web3 right now with the metaverse, right? We're at the building stage. We're doing this for the long term. We have a long-term commitment. So the conversation, the narrative is really about developing for the next 5 or 10 years. Because the metaverse is not like today you come in, tomorrow you're going to make a lot of money and you're going to succeed overnight. The reality is it is a 5-10 year project. Mass market adoption would take 3, maybe 5 years, and then it becomes transactional, and then people are really spending money in the metaverse. But you're building till then. So one of the things is really managing that expectation, coming in right. Of course, trying to build revenues in this market right now, but at the same time, knowing that we are really coming in early, preparing ourselves so that when mass market is here, you don't start when mass market adoption is there. That's when you lose out to everyone who spent the 3 to 5 years building for it. So I think because our narrative was right, we set the tone right, people come in with the right basis, and that's why we have been growing and doing well. Yeah, so I think that's from us.
Yeah. So building on top of George's point, I feel like the term crypto winter and basically the winter season is predominantly because when people think about cryptocurrency and Web3, like George said, people want to make big money really quickly. They think about earning millions. The perception of Web3 and crypto has been said that way, in my honest opinion. And I feel like if we shift the focus instead of on revenue, but on community management and real-world utilities, for example, I think the perception of crypto in itself has to change in order for people to really utilize Web3, for example, governance tokens, not as a means of profit, but as a means of gaining some sort of utility, like a trading. This, if you have a 500 tokens of X, then you will be able to go into this, or you'll get this. So I think it really has to do with the give and take of using governance tokens or these Web3 or crypto to gain some form of tangible outcome or tangible product or tangible benefit, as opposed to just focusing on the profit. So that's my honest opinion.
So I guess on Mighty Jacks specifically, like we do have a collectibles business that is profitable and that's growing, right? So that does help us kind of tide through the winter.
It came through first, right?
And
before Web3.
That's kind of the core business, right? In a sense, Mighty Meta is like we are the growth division, right? And right now, I think we're building for during winter. So we're kind of hunkering down. We're looking for how we can actually best emerge from this to become partners for IPs to actually work with.
So I've got a final question for you before we open the floor to questions. What do you think would be the value creation, right, we could bring to the society with Web3, and what's beyond Web3 to look out for?
I'll just say that I think the short answer is it has to be seamless and easy, right? If we want people to look at Web3, they have to not think that Web3 is a thing, right? They just go in, they use the app, they play the game, they use the tech, and they don't even know they're using the tech. So the goal, and I think every new tech innovation goes through that cycle. We have that very highly complicated period where the early adopters are in, they understand the technology, they build there, and then they go through that wave until it reaches maturity, right? So we have that typical tech adoption curve as well. So I think we are there, and then once it reaches the level where nobody even knows what they're using, but it just works, that's when the market really is moving forward. And I think companies who are coming into the space, into Web3, has to also have that same goal in mind. So that's why we, in the sandbox, we introduce like social media logins rather than crypto wallet logins. You can log in with your crypto wallet, but you don't have to. So that people who just want to play can just log in and play. So these are little steps which a lot of Web3 metaverses do not do, right? But we know that that's important. And I think as long as we all really take the next few years, really develop the tech out, make it as seamless as possible, that's when you see an exponential increase in mass market adoption, because they don't even know they're using it.
Yeah, I definitely agree, 100%. And as for fandom, we've really focused on harnessing Web3 for the creator economy, the problems and challenges creators face. And I feel like harnessing Web3 to solve some sort of social problem or something deeper than just profit, something more meaningful, I think that will be a very value creative trajectory for the Web3 world. And also, as George said, once the UX becomes seamless, once we can't really distinguish between Web3 and Web2, I think it becomes our challenge is to apply Web3 technology at that heightened state of technological advancement into the daily facets of life. For example, like QR codes, for example. When I came to Singapore, I was really surprised how much they're used. Like when you order food, when you everywhere there's QR codes. So for example, daily application of Web3 as a medium of transacting an action of some sort. I think that would be the next trajectory for Web3.
So I think the analogy I would use is like, if you can't bring the horse to the water, you bring the water to the horse, right? I mean, an example that we actually did was at Singapore Comic Con, where we actually have quite a big presence as Mighty Jacks. We actually kind of did a digital twinning on Sandbox, right? So in that case, we also had 2 terminals that were set up there so people could play with it. So it's kind of like reducing that barrier to entry, right? If you ask me, hey, you know, even if it asks me for a social login and stuff, I still got to download Sandbox and everything on my computer. But if I put it there for you and you use it, that's just kind of cutting it to the consumer, bringing it to the consumer. I think that's one big part. The other part, which I think both Josh and Yumbi talked about, is in terms of the kind of ease of access, right? And also, how do you make sure that you know, things are seamless, right? It's something that's operating in the background, you don't actually see it. So that's something that we're really pushing on our first kind of immersive experience as well, right? With Stranger Things, like, it's not, you don't have to know that it's NFT ticketing, right? You don't have, that's gonna be in the background. But if you are a true passionate fan of Stranger Things, of this Netflix franchise, then this would be something that's fun. Come and see it, come and experience it. And I think that's like the ways that the industry will have to keep going. Like, we have to find ways to bridge the IP to the consumer and get them to consume it. Once they consume it, then it becomes mainstream, and then it will kind of just start the flywheel.
I think it also bridges the gap between people with different personas and different abilities. I think it encourages a lot of inclusivity into the society with Web3, where in the physical space, one can be disabled, for example, but in the whole, Web3 space, you are so much more confident, you take on a different persona, So I think that is also another area in which it brings impact to society as well. Now we'd like to open the floor to questions. Now feel free to raise up your hand, and we've got the mic going to you. Okay, we've got a question from Nim.
Hi guys, Nim here from Arc Spaces and also the founder of Web3 Supper Club. So I'm going to ask a question on behalf of Web0 and 2 folks. How would you advise individuals to start their Web3 journey? And what resources or thought leaders kind of inspire you to kind of get?
Who would like to address that?
So the question is, basically for people that are new to Web3, so maybe they're a Web0 person or they're a Web2 person, how could they get started on their Web3 journey, and what resources are out there for somebody to start?
Well, as an example, I could tell you about, so I basically run a party planning business, and it was originally a NFT membership-based service. However, I've been running it for 2 years right now, right? And every time we host a party or an event, it fills out. But 90% of those people do not know that it's backed by Web3 technology. They just enjoy the party. They just enjoy the atmosphere and the networking services that I provide. So I think one way, coming from that example, could be they're already experiencing a tangible benefit or a tangible interaction. However, they do not realize that it is backed, that it runs on Web3-based technology. And once they realize it, I think we could really ease them into, oh, so this is how it was run. Oh, so this is how Web3 was used to track my data and to manage my benefits and all that. And also, I think by the same token, we could really, what I do is for the VIP members who actually purchase the NFTs, I send them out a brochure and a packet, and it has like a diamond necklace, an ID card, really fancy schmancy, and all that. So the presentation makes them feel very welcome and very VIP. So it feels very premium. And we also include a USB. So once they put the USB in, there's the roadmap on how to set up the wallet, on how to do everything. And wallet setting up, that's not a necessity to use our offline services. For them to come to our parties and events with the necklace or with their ID card, that suffices. So for the Web0 person, it's like, oh, even though I saw the tutorial, maybe this is this is such a hassle, maybe having an option for non-natives and for people in the Web 0, they don't really have to use this, but maybe offering them, like I said, a benefit or some sort of user experience that is tangible, I think that could really ease them in. Yeah.
With an authentication process of the products that you're wearing to ensure that you gain entry. You don't really need a card anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, got you.
I'll just add on. I think there are two things. One is a lot of people, why we have so many brands in Metaverse is because it's an easy, low risk, way to try. You can just go in. But the key element of Web3 is actually the aspect of NFT ownership and what it gives you. Can be a membership access. It could be an asset in the Metaverse. So there's a lot of YouTube content, like even on the Sandbox YouTube channel, we have education that explains all these things to get an idea. A lot of people are really afraid about, like wallets and security and hacks and all that. So I think it's spent a bit of time to learn, and to learn even deeper is to jump into communities. There's a lot of Web3 communities, right? On Discord. I know a lot of people don't use Discord because they think it's a gaming platform, which it is. Just Web3 kind of took over halfway through. But there's so much information and there's even more misinformation, right? So you need to really latch on to the right parties. Like of course, we are a very known entity, incredible, so our YouTube would probably be a good place. But at the same time, to really understand the community and how they work is about being in the community. And you see, it's like a whole new world. I really don't know how to go through it. That's a whole talk on its own. But yeah, it's a very good place to start to understand, and then from there, pick up the little details. But yeah, it's a new space. Some learning at this point in time is definitely necessary. Yeah, thanks.
I mean, I think in short, you got to do your own homework, right? And I mean, I think there's two parts also. There's like the part where you're buying the NFT because you support an IP, whether it's G-Dragon or Transformers or Stranger Things, whatever it is, right? That's one portion of things. And if you're that kind of a user, it's just a collector's mentality, right? If you're someone who buys anything that's Transformers related, and now you're just saying, I want to buy digital Transformers stuff, that's like one angle, right? If you're looking at it from like the investment side of things, then I mean, there's a lot of things you can look at. You can look at like the artist, whether he's actually a well-known Web3 artist, and what's kind of his provenance and everything. The team that you're buying the work into. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. It's kind of like if you're investing in stocks, you got to do the same thing as well, right? So if you're looking at it from a financial motivation standpoint, that's kind of all the work that you got to put in, and then hopefully you kind of get onto this, right? But it's really dangerous as well, which I think, kind of UMB started with the whole Luna side of things, right? Like, if it's too good to be true, I mean, don't see banks giving 20% interest rates, right? So that should be a red flag, like, for all of us to say, like, hey, something's probably not 100% right with that. Yeah.
Any final question before we end the panel? All right. Let's put our hands together and, thank our panelists here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, panel speakers.